All right, everybody. It's Jordan. It's Will. It's Load the Box, Minnesota Vikings podcast. Uh, really excited to be back. We took 2 weeks off, and the former president got shot, and Jordan Addison got a DUI, and everything kind of went poorly while we were gone. It was a bad break, I would say. Bad break. Now that I'm out of the jokey bit, Vikings player, Kyrie Jackson, fourth round draft pick out of Oregon, unfortunately did pass away since the last time we've done a show. So we're going to get into everything I've just talked about, except the assassination. I don't think this is the place for that. Check out Load the Box Politics for that one. That's not a real channel, and it never will be. But legitimately getting into opening with the Kyrie Jackson, we were talking about this before the show, and there's been some time now because it happened on the 6th, I believe, or the 5th of July. So about 2 weeks have passed since that unfortunate accident happened, and it just really sucks. We were talking about how it sucks that we never got to know him as a fan base. And I said to Will, like, yeah, I mean, the worst part of this is that a human being passed away, but when you're an athlete for a professional sports team, I do think there's a special bond that gets made. I mean, look at the bond that Harrison Smith has, and I think he's like the top tier of Viking bonding because he's probably going to retire as a Minnesota Viking. But look at a guy like Josh Metellus, who wasn't expected to be much, and now I think he's pretty much a universally beloved fan favorite. And everyone loves him. Everyone loves to hear what he has to say and to see what he does on the field. And so it sucks that we never got to see that, never got to, see him do a mic'd up, see him do one of the Vikings riddles that they post, and, like the engagement that they do for the fans. And so, really praying for his family hard, praying for that whole situation, to just some peace for that family and that kind of stuff. Will, sorry to start it on such a down note. I figured kick it off low and then talk football instead of talk football and then be like, okay, now everybody, let's get sad. So, Will, how have you been? I know we haven't spoke in front of cameras in a while.
Been doing well. I think the Kyrie Jackson news, it hits hard. Not in the sense of, like, I don't want to sit up here and say that it's as sad for us as it is for his family or for his teammates or his coaches. Like, that's not the point of this. I think really us bringing up his passing in a car accident. You can Google it, find the news on exactly what happened. As far as we're aware, it was nothing. He was at no fault in the accident. Yeah, feel free to Google that, read up on what's going on there. I think Kevin Seifert from ESPN has done a pretty good job covering that news story from a non-football perspective. So can find all the details on the internet. But yeah, I mean, it's a very sad and tragic thing. It kind of harkens me back a little bit. It's different, but a little bit to the Damar Hamlin stuff, just because of how how someone that, in our eyes plays a sport for a living, and it's easy for us as fans and quasi podcasters and whatever, looking at them, sort of putting them on a pedestal as this sort of like, robot machine football guy. But the reality is, like, life is very fragile. And yeah, I mean, I think also just our thoughts and prayers and our hearts go out to his family. I mean, this was a young man who was about to turn 25 years old and had achieved the first step of his football dream of making the NFL. And he was a kid and a guy that, the coaching staff had high hopes for. He had extremely high hopes for himself. He had confidence and swagger coming out of his ears, and it was, I think I did a lot of reading and just sort of like digging into him as a person after all this happened, and Yeah, it's tragic.
It
Not a whole
sucks.
lot more to say than that.
It sucks when like because football is such like it's a fun hobby. I guess it's not a hobby because you don't
Yeah,
do it, but it's a fun escape. And that's a word that's been thrown around a lot, when politics get talked about and things like that. But that is what it is for a lot of people. It's just like, cool, week's over. I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm gonna sit on the couch. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna grill out, do whatever, enjoy the game. It's cold outside. I'm just gonna watch football all day on Sunday, and that's what it is for a lot of people. So I think it resonates whenever something happens to someone that plays the game that you use to escape, where it's like, oh no, it's life is still happening around the NFL. And I think that's why the Damar Hamlin situation is so, I don't want to say effective, but like it affected people in such a way because it was like, oh man, like life, these are humans. These are not just, this isn't Madden. This isn't, these are human beings who go out there and do this. And so to be reminded of that it always stinks. And obviously, like I said before, and I think you said it beautifully, we just were excited to see the guy play football. He had family members, he had friends and acquaintances and loved ones, all that kind of stuff. So, that thoughts are with him, prayers are with him, whatever you want to say, whatever you need to say, vibes, whatever you need to say to do it. But yeah, let's get into some more sucky news, but news that we can be a little bit more like heated about, a little bit more angry. Joe, yeah, we have strong. There's really no opinion whenever a player passes away. Everybody universally says, crap, that sucks. Here's something that sucks that we can be mad about and we can yell at the guy about, and he should be yelled at. A week after Kyrie Jackson passed away in a car accident, Jordan Addison got a DUI in California, and there's a lot of reporting going on whether or not it was alcohol, whether it was marijuana, whether it was something else. Either way, driving while impaired. And, there's been a lot of people trying to find loopholes to get around a suspension, trying to, oh, well, how can we have him week 1 in New York? We need him against the Giants. He's a big part of the offense. J.J. McCarthy needs it. Take all of that out of it. This is a dumb decision. This is the second. He's been in the league 2 years. He's on a 2-year bad decision streak in the offseason. And it always involves vehicles. He with the speeding in year 1, now with the DUI. Will, what was your takeaway whenever you saw it? Obviously, it's not like you have a hot take on it. I think everybody's universally pretty mad at him. And then, who are we trading him to? Because he deleted all the Vikings off his social media. So, everybody's saying, oh, he's embarrassed. But trade talks now. Here we go. Kwesi, listen up.
First and foremost, the first thing that when I saw it, I just face planted. Or face palmed probably is the more appropriate. I didn't actually trip on my feet and fall and hit the ground. It's incredibly disappointing. And I feel like I can say that because I'm a dad now, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. And I can imagine that's what Kevin O'Connell said to his wife when he was stewing about his living room, thinking about this incident with his number 2 receiver who has all the talent in the world, and the sky's the limit for what his NFL career could be. But I don't know, this is strike 2. And last season when he did the whole going 140 and a 55 in his Lamborghini or whatever it was, this time he fell asleep at the wheel. His car was stopped in the fast lane close to LAX at 11:30 p.m. He was in a white Rolls Royce. Again, Google the details. The news has it covered better than Jordan and I would, but it's perplexing, the decision making here. And you would think that your teammate dies in a car crash where it's suspected, I don't think anything's been confirmed yet, but it's suspected that alcohol was at play with the driver who was at fault. And how do you make that decision yourself a week later? It's befuddling. Yes, you can make the he's only 22 excuse. I don't really care about that. I don't really care that he's only 22 and that he has, years to mature into his full adulthood. He's being paid millions of dollars. He's already a face of the franchise. He's got to act like an adult. He doesn't get to be a kid anymore. That's what comes with the tag of being a star in the NFL, which Jordan Addison already kind of is, which is crazy. But 1 year in, people know his name. Not everybody knows every number 2 receiver on every team. People know who Jordan Addison is. And it's not just because he drives fast. It's because he does incredible things on the football field. And he has earned, that tag and that the money he's made and his reputation on the field and all those things. But with that comes a responsibility. And, unfortunately, Vikings receivers in years past have had incidents like this. I mean, look no further than 2005 or Stephon Diggs didn't do anything illegal, but he was just a whiner and a diva in his own right. And the sad thing is that for most accounts, and I think most people would agree that the guy that he looks up to, the guy that he looks to model his career after, his teammate, has been a pretty model citizen.
He's a dad now.
And he's been in the limelight. Yeah, and he's been in the league for 5 years, and
But that's the biggest Justin Jefferson drama has been he contested a parental suit, and then they were like, "No, it's your kid," and now it's like, okay, now he's a dad. I don't think
dad.
That's not that outrageous. To be like, I don't know that that's my kid, and then you go through the process, and it's like, oh, that's my kid. So all right, he's a dad now. That's nothing compared to what Addison has done. I think Addison could kill people. I mean, Kyle's are missiles. They are.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about this. And I don't know. What do you like? Before we get really deep in the weeds of potential trades and all these things, barring a trade, what do you do if you're the Vikings? You've got this star player who now has 2, like you said, deadly infractions that thankfully have not killed anybody or harmed himself, and yet it's back-to-back summers doing the same stupid thing. What do you do?
I really, and I'm not kidding, I think that I don't know what's going on in Jordan Addison's head. I don't know what's going on in anybody's head except for my own. But when I look at that and I see a guy who's made back-to-back seasons, he's been in the league, like I said, 2 years in the league, 2 vehicle-related problems. Speeding, extreme speeding, triple-digit speeding, and driving under the influence. Yeah, man, I'm looking at sending him away, and I'm looking at there are teams that want to trade receivers. You brought up San Francisco before the show. I brought up Cincinnati because they're in my backyard. T. Higgins doesn't want to play on that tag. I know the Vikings have a lot of cap space. It probably doesn't make sense for us to trade for T. Higgins and then immediately pay him. Same thing with Ayuk. It doesn't make sense for us to trade for these guys and then immediately pay them the money that they want and probably deserve. But yeah, I don't know what you do. Because, I'm sure that he got a very stern talking to after the speeding thing last season. And now it's at what point does the talking to... It's not working. Clearly it's not connecting. You're not getting home. I don't know if Justin Jefferson needs to step up and be more of a role model. But, I'm not really, I don't know if he needs to go and have a one-on-one conversation. I don't know what it is. I really don't. But if I'm Kwesi, I'm on the phone. I'm exploring options on dealing him. Any Viking fan that thought Jordan Addison will be a Viking 7 years from now was crazy. The second he got drafted, he said, "Let's get paid." So he clearly he knows he's good. He knows he's good. He wants to be paid very well for being good. The Vikings aren't going to be able to do that because we have somebody that's 20 times better than him, and we already paid him. So I don't think there's a future in Minnesota for Jordan Addison. I just was hoping we would have this, okay, it's time to trade him conversation in 2026, not 2 years into the league. He hasn't even taken a snap for a second season yet. I mean, he's played one full season. It's I like the disappointing is the correct phrase. And I don't like how he handled it by deleting the Vikings, all Vikings related stuff from his, because that's when now you're doing like the Randy Moss legal trouble plus the Stephon Diggs drama, and it's like, you're a lot, man. And sometimes you gotta go be somebody else's problem. Like, and maybe I sound like, an old man when I say that, but I truly, I don't think the Vikings will win anything this year. So find one in the draft next year,
Here's kind of, I have like two strains of thought on this. One is if you keep him, you suspend him.
Yeah. And
you suspend him for X number of games, even if the league decides not to. I don't know what the precedent is on that. I don't know what sort of message that sends to the players' union. So maybe that's something that people smarter than me, the Vikings lawyers, the Vikings PR staff, can provide a little more insight than some father of three sitting in the northern suburbs has to say about it. But I think you have to send some sort of message. Last year he wasn't suspended for anything. It's probably fine. Like, I don't know if there were any other infractions on his record in the past, so there's really no history. It's like, okay, it's one thing. Let's sit him down. Let's give him a slap on the wrist. Let's make sure he doesn't do this again. It didn't seem to be anything the rest of the season. He honestly seemed pretty quiet, just did his job, played well, didn't bicker when he didn't get targets. Like, he seemed like he was, fine. But then he does this again. They have to send some sort of message. And I think a suspension has to be maybe step one. Make him go to training camp. Make him do all that stuff. Heck, make him play in the preseason. But then suspend him for a couple games in the regular season again. I'm not going to put as much as money, but
I think if we're going to keep him, like, we have to keep him. There's no, nobody wants to take a phone call. Then he's not playing in New York, I think, for sure, no matter what the league decides, because the precedent for the league, and Kevin Seafeld's been on top of this, you can get on X, you can get on the Google machine, you can do whatever you want. If you look at the precedent and what Jordan Addison is looking at, a DUI, an alcohol related infraction, whatever that's, if you drive drunk, you get 3 games. That's the precedent. The problem is that, like, a lot of people are speculating, and we don't know because it's not public information. A lot of people are speculating it was weed. Well, if you eat an edible in California and you get pulled over, that's technically not against the law. So so the league has no right to suspend him, or maybe it is against the law, but the league has never suspended somebody for. I don't know exactly what it is, but the most he's staring down is 3 games. There's also reports that he got I can't remember what the policy is, but it's like cite and release, because he didn't get arrested, he just got a citation. Basically, he signed a piece of paper saying, I will come to a court date and face a judge for my actions. And a lot of times that happens if they want to breathalyze and you say, I'm not blowing. And then they will say, okay, well, you have a court date now, and I'm going to say you were driving like this or you were doing this. I could smell it on your breath, whatever. The office, it's going to be your word against the cops. Cops probably going to win. That's check out Load the Box Politics for, political views and cop views and things like that. But that's the facts that we have right now that I've seen as of today, the 17th. We'll see what happens as the thing goes on. But I do agree with you. I think the Vikings sending a message, not just to him, but also, you got to think, you have young players on this team. You have other receivers. You have other guys. There's, 53 guys on the roster, plus however many for training camp and stuff. Send a clear message. We're not tolerating it. We gave him a second chance. We're going to try to be player friendly. And then if you make us look dumb for giving you this second chance, those repercussions. And I don't know if it's a 1-game thing where it's maybe you just sit him, you just make him inactive. You don't say you're suspending him because you want to, you don't want to send that message to the NFLPA. But you just say like, oh, Jordan, he's a healthy scratch today. That sucks. And then week 2, you say, all right, let's go. Let's suit it up. It's in the past. You did your time. Let's play football. And let's hire him a professional driver so he never has to get behind the wheel again. He's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I heard this on, I can't remember if it was on, I think it was on Barrero's radio show. On KFan in the Twin Cities. I can't remember if it was John Krasinski or if it was Kevin Seifert. One of them was saying that NFL teams all have driver services for their players. So no matter where you are, you can call it and they'll pick you up. So not only does Jordan Addison have the ability to call an Uber from wherever he is, he also has the ability to call his team's rideshare service.
Does that...
It's
and I don't know if you know this, like, I'm assuming he couldn't have, like, if he was in California, then the Vikings probably don't have one, but it's like, good God, man, he gets one now.
You never know. You never know, because he was in California for the premiere of Receiver, the show that Justin Jefferson's on. And not only were Jefferson and Addison there, so was Keenan McCardell, the wide receivers coach, and potentially other people. And so there's reason to believe that there would be a Vikings driver there, even if it was a hired out limo or something for the day.
It's very fair.
So, anyways,
A+ reporting from Will Goodwin.
Absolutely, that's my job. One thing that I do want to just add, I don't know if we talked about this. He technically was arrested and I think detained might be the word. He was in a cell for 2 hours, basically.
Okay, all right.
He was then released, so whatever. Again, the LA Daily News has the report. Kevin Seifert has the report. Go read all the details if you care.
So now I want to talk about trades.
So I'm curious what you think about this, because like we kind of brushed over, and I think brushing over is probably appropriate, because I don't think the Vikings are trading him for another big name receiver, especially in a season where they're not realistically going to contend for any sort of Super Bowl anything. So would you trade him for a few draft picks?
I think
take that approach and then go sign Hunter Renfrow on the open market, get him for a few $1,000,000, and just have him be your,
This is. Do you want to hear the dumbest take of all time?
Please.
You think if you called Carolina and you said like, give us a 2nd-round pick and Adam Thielen for Jordan Addison, do you think they take it?
Yes.
Because, like, obviously the Vikings, I don't know, maybe you have to up it to a 1st-round pick so, like, you get the value back or whatever. And you can be like, look, you can dump Thielen's contract. You get a really good receiver. He's young. He'll help Bryce Young. They signed was it Xavier, or not signed? They drafted, like, Xavier Legette or whatever. And so, like, that, they
also signed Deontay Johnson.
Yes. And so, like, look at that receiver room. You've got the rookie, you've got the guy with 1 year of really good experience, and then you've got Deontay Johnson, who's like a pretty good receiver. I mean, he's not like crazy, but he's a good receiver. And so, I mean, I think you have superstar potential in one guy. I think you have 2 good receivers after that. If Legette ends up being something, like, that's a good curl for Bryce Young. So, like, do you go after an Adam Thielen and tell him, like, look, buddy, let's do this. Let's do the magic carpet ride, announce your retirement before the season, do the whole, like, who was the baseball player that retired that, like, every stadium he went to, like, they gave him, like, a seat or whatever. Like, was it Rivera?
I'm sure they did it for him. I'm sure they did it for Jeter. One I'm thinking about is Miguel Cabrera from Detroit. I know
that's who I'm thinking of.
Everywhere he went, all the teams gave him a bottle of wine or a chair or a whatever. Udonis Haslem, the Heat, the 98-year-old who retired like a year or 2 ago. Played with LeBron. He played with Shaq. I mean, he'd been around forever.
He played. I remember Pistol the Heat gave him.
Yeah, they literally gave him a rocking chair for his front porch. So maybe they
That's
do
so
that with
fun.
Adam Thielen.
But no, yeah, I think
who's
you
only
tell.
33, by the way.
Well,
He's
yeah,
not that
that's old for a receiver. I don't know. Like, look, I think you can bring him in, and now you don't have the Cousins contract, so like you can bring him in. I don't know what it would look like this year. There'd have to be a restructure. You'd have to pay him a little bit next year. He was also, let's not forget, like, it wasn't a clean break. You know, like his wife was putting on Facebook, like, they won't use my husband in the offense the right way. And then, like, you know, there were reports that were like, yeah, Adam Thielen can't get open anymore. Like, you know, so who knows? Maybe that's a fun one. I think that's the fun one. I think realistically, like you said, just trading for draft picks makes a lot of sense if you were going to go that route. I'd like to see a first round pick back. I mean, I think that he is he has 1 year, so that's the kind of difficult part. Is it's like, yeah, he's done it for one season, and he looked good while Jefferson was out, but he's undersized and he has off the field issues. We're not giving up a first round pick for this guy, you know. And so it might be one of those where it's like, but God, it would be so cool to have 2 first round picks next year.
Yeah, I mean, there is truth to that. There's also just truth to the fact that as we stand today, teams know that the Vikings know that he is a depressed asset currently.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be almost a situation where if the Vikings can stomach Jordan Addison for another year, you trade him at the trade deadline, or, you know, like you let him ball out and, you know, increase his value over the first half of the season. Or, you know, come March, you trade him then if he has a really good year when his stock is rising a little bit. Because he since he is a first round pick, he'll still have 3 years of team control or contract or whatever you want to call it after this. So he'll still be cheap for 3 more years. So, you know, maybe maybe today, you know, July 17th or even before preseason isn't the time to trade him. But you monitor that thing, and if he can't get himself situated and get himself back on the straight and narrow, and B, continues to play well, then maybe you trade him. I would not, though. I would not put it past the Vikings to retain him and really lean into this like player empowerment sort of culture that they're trying to create. And I don't know. This is where it's really tested. You know, just like Kwesi's competitive rebuild was really tested last season with all the injuries and everything. Now they're sort of like player first culture, collaboration, all that is really tested when you got a guy who's awesome on the football field but has given you headaches off it. So what do you do? I mean, there is the thought exercise of. I was just gonna say, there's also the thought exercise of if Jordan Addison wasn't good, if this was Tristan Jackson's second, you know, off the field vehicle related thing, he'd probably been cut already.
100%.
So that's just the other piece of this that is maybe a little bit unjust. But
I think that I lost it. I had it and I lost it, and it probably wasn't that important anyway.
From you.
I was gonna say no. You're fine. It came back. It can't because it is important. I think Kwesi's done a good job, and this is we're trying to keep the show relatively short. So maybe this will be my final thoughts. All right, because I don't really have anything. It's July. It's the middle of July. There's nothing on. I can't watch the Reds barely strive to get to one game behind 500 for any longer. So my final thoughts, I'll just talk about Kwesi for a minute, and I'll say that, like, I do think they've done a really good job, one, of keeping Kevin O'Connell as the good guy in everything, where Kevin O'Connell is pounding the table. I want Kirk Cousins no matter what. He's my ride or die. I will quit football if I don't get Kirk Cousins. And then Kirk Cousins leaves, and he's like, JJ McCarthy is the smartest guy I've ever been in a room with. He is attractive, and he is good at throwing footballs, and he's smart. He knows the entire playbook. I don't know how he got it, but, you know, like, so Kevin O'Connell's always these are my guys. Whereas Kwesi, you know, he kind of tries to put that face on publicly, but behind closed doors, I think he's done a good job of making tough decisions, letting Cousins go, letting Thielen go. That one was the toughest. I'm not reporting anything. I don't know anything anybody else does or doesn't, but like, I'm sure that Kwesi was very blunt with Harrison Smith about his contract and what it was going to take for Harrison Smith to be a Viking into this final chapter of his career. So, like, he's doing a good job of being the analytical villain genius that we want him to be. So I don't think that, like, just because the Vikings want to keep their culture up, I don't, like, if Kwesi can get value for, like you called it, what did you call it? Like a broken asset? Depressed asset. That's what it was. If he can get value for a depressed asset, he's going to maximize the value. You know, I mean, it's a cliche at this point. It's overdone. It's the Adam Thielen almost sold dental equipment storyline of today is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Did you know he was on the stock market? He was a stocks guy. He traded stocks for a living before he was an NFL GM. Isn't that neat? So, you know, like, I imagine everyone thinks he, like that scene in The Hangover where Zach Galifianakis is at the poker table or the blackjack table and he's, like, counting cards and there's math all over the screen. I think that's how people think Kwesi operates, and I'm sure it's much more, you know, like, this guy's a dude, he's good at football. Like, I'm sure there is some of that in there as well. So, but yeah, we'll be back next week. Training camp does start in a week. That's insane. We are hyped. Rookie, do you know the dates off the top of your head?
Yes. The rookies report on the 21st, which is that's report on the 23rd day. Training camp practices are not open to the public until the 27th, which is next Saturday.
That is incredible. We are 10 days from the time of this recording, 9 days from when it goes live from training camp. We have a countdown on the whiteboard at work. We are 18 days away, as of the 17th, from the Hall of Fame game. So that there will be football played. It's being played by UPS drivers, but football is played in Canton, Ohio, in the crappy field in 18 days, 17 when this goes live. That's incredible to me. 2 weeks and we get football on the TV. Everybody's excited. The new NCAA is out. I can't play it. I play on PC. EA hates me. I'm depressed about it. I've taken way too long for my final thoughts. I'll pass it off to you and I'll let you take us home.
Just one question for you. Have you ever been to the Hall of Fame game?
No, it's like it's equidistant. Yeah, it's like equidistant for me to go to Nashville as it is for me to go up to like Cleveland or Canton. So I've actually never been to the Hall of Fame. I've never been to the Hall of Fame game, but it's one of those things that's on the bucket list because like I want to go to that part of Ohio and see the Hall of Fame, see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, do all the stuff that's up there to do, and then promptly come back home to Midtown and sleep in my own bed. But it's just such a long, I mean, that's a long drive.
Yeah. Realize that, of course, the NFL put Williams in the game. So, will he play?
No shot.
I think that the rookie's going to play in preseason. You don't think so?
I don't think so. No, I don't think he'll play. I don't think anybody will play. I think that like it will be all rookies.
Yeah, it's interesting because like, you know, obviously you want your rookie who's like has no snap to get some in preseason. Like I don't think there's really much precedent for even who's started to be like obvious starter week one. Rookies tend to always play in preseason, but whether or not they play in the Hall game.
Well, we're getting some before you start
August.
Your final thoughts. Let me cut you off real quick. We're getting some audio issues out of you. Try unplugging the mic and plugging it back in. It's coming in like real choppy, and I don't think it's an internet thing. I think it's a mic thing. I will talk about the Hall of Fame really quick, and I will just point out that like. If you don't remember it, look up the whole, like, how bad the stadium is. Like, they're talking about, like, sewage pipes leaking in the locker rooms and, like, the stadium's falling apart. It's really terrible. It's like, I don't know. The comparison I want to make is, like, how, like, the VA always gets a bad rap for, like, being bad. And it's like, how's the VA bad? Like, we should take care of that. That's, like, you know, that's so important. It's like that, but on such a small scale. Like, I'm real political tonight for some reason. But, like, how is the Hall of Fame field bad. Like, how is that not well maintained? Does the NFL not make enough money to maintain that? Like, what are we doing? But all right, I'll pass it back to you now that hopefully we fix this.
See if this microphone works now.
I think it might be I think it's an internet issue. Oh, I think we lost you. We lost you.
Let's just, Jordan, you close this down.
All right.
Next week.
Yeah, so we will see you next week. We will try and get all of this resolved. Sucks that I feel like this was a good show. We'll get in there. We're going to knock the rust off. We're going to do a couple practice runs before next week's show. And then we'll be back to talk about training camp. We're real excited. I know Will's excited, and he would tell you, but, internet doesn't want us to. So, have a good week, everybody. Enjoy the last week without football, the last 2 weeks without football. And as always, Skol, y'all.